LumaFusion, and WWDC. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Get important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for your Mac right inside Slack. Try all of Kolide's features on an unlimited number of devices free for 14 days, no credit card required, at kolide.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, I was at NAB. I saw a lot of old friends. I met some new friends, but there were a couple that I definitely missed that didn't make it this year, and that are Terri and Chris from LumaFusion. So it's time to catch up with them now virtually just to see what's going on. Terri, Chris, great to have you both back. I'm sorry we missed each other in Vegas.
Absolutely. It's good to see you again, Chuck, and thanks for having us on. Sorry we missed you there too.
Yeah, well, we did miss going for sure.
Yeah, well, everybody had to make their own decisions based on, obvious health concerns, but also on the show itself, trying to figure out whether it was worth it. So it was interesting to see who was there, interesting to see who decided not to. No right or wrong answers. It was just the way it is.
For us, part of it was obviously COVID, but part of it was that we were still recovering from just all the changes in our business that COVID caused. Like, we had hired people that we had never met before, and only met online. And we had just kind of gotten back into our groove. And then along comes the prospect of NAB. And it was just like, we need to focus and slow down and not worry about that this year. But we do hope we'll be there next year.
Yeah. Well, it's funny kind of how that worked. I mean, we all had basically a couple of years off, and yet we're still playing catch up from that. So it's, as you said.
I mean, it was off, but we all had to work while our families were in the background and, all sorts of stuff that just isn't ideal.
Yeah, just completely new challenges, right, that we didn't have before. And for us personally, as a company, besides COVID, like Terri said, we grew significantly during COVID. We added a lot of new people. We added new development for the Android version, and we've been working on some big new features and trying to make all that work with COVID going on and all these changes. It was a challenge, and so we, like she said, we'd just gotten back into the groove of it. So that's where we're at right now, is getting things done and getting some releases ready. So we're excited about that. But yeah, we're sort of glad we didn't derail it because NAB is a lot of fun, but boy, it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time to get ready for.
It is a lot. And we love it because we bring the whole team so that we can kind of use it as a team building exercise as well. Just, we usually get a big Airbnb and stay together and, just get to know each other better. And it's really fun for us. So definitely missed going. Yeah.
Well, you bring up an interesting thing that, during COVID, we all had to adopt new ways of working. And now we're almost having to figure out, do we stay with those? Do we go back to the way it was before? Or what I think most people are finding is, we've got to just merge the two to find the best of both worlds. So it sounds like that's what
absolutely,
you all been doing.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. And, my engineers here in Salt Lake, it's sort of definitely a hybrid situation. A lot of them like working at home, and I love having people in the office. So we found a nice balance where most people are coming in at least once a week, and so we can have some time together face to face, and that's really nice. But people who are productive at home, they can work at home, and it works really well. So
we've
nice.
Instigated a free lunch Wednesdays in Salt Lake and free lunch Thursdays in Seattle. And so if you come in, you get lunch and you get to hang out with everyone. Masked, of course, and at a distance, but still, it's okay.
I see. So you bribe them, in other words. I like this.
We do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But, after a while, at first it worked. And then after a while, people were just showing up for lunch and then going home. Not sure if it's working anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so maybe let's see. We'll have coffee in the morning and pizza in the afternoon or something.
There you go.
That's right.
Well, so obviously, we were going to try to do this Dub week, and the schedules were a little bit tough. But more importantly, though, I really just kind of wanted to let the dust settle and see what had been announced and how it affected you. And lo and behold, there's LumaFusion being shown off as an example in one of the WW videos. And I will have a link in the show notes to that, folks, along with the time code, so you can go right to it. Were you aware that was going to happen, or what was the story?
We were aware something was going to happen. Yeah, we had, Apple had been talking to us about this new feature, and so we had some, a little information on it. We hadn't actually seen the feature ourselves, so but we knew what it was about. And the nice thing about that, it's basically the new reference mode that's coming for the iPad Pros, and that allows users to edit using the full range of the iPad Pro's display, so that you can get a full P3, color space, and see your HDR videos, using the full range and getting a much better editing experience. And we're going to build on top of what Apple's provided, which is just frankly, a simple switch in the settings where you can turn it on or off the HDR mode, but we'll be adding additional features for turning on or off tone mapping and doing some other nice things with that additional color space that's available. So we're really excited about that. And it was definitely a big thing. There were 3 different talks on these new set of features on the iPad Pro during WWDC. So it's probably the one we'll be focusing on the most as far as new features go.
Makes sense. We've had a number of discussions here on MacVoices when you weren't here about where the iPad stands right now as a productivity device, and what's going to happen and what was going to happen at WW in terms of making it more so. And one of the things that keeps coming up are we need pro level apps for the iPad. And I keep arguing that, we have pro-level apps for the iPad. We have LumaFusion. We have pretty much all the collaboration software out there running on an iPad, most of it with pretty close to feature parity, if not feature parity. We have, for better or worse, Microsoft Office running on the iPad. We obviously have, all the Apple productivity stuff. So up to this point, it has felt like maybe that iPadOS has been what's holding things back. The apps themselves are there. It's the multitasking OS experience that's been a little lacking. Do you think that's accurate, and how does that apply to LumaFusion?
Well, I would say, go ahead, Terry.
No, go ahead. I'll follow up.
All right. Yeah. So I would say that it's somewhat accurate. iPadOS has been developing and changing, and I think Apple's been careful about its development. It started out as a very sandboxed environment with everything carefully protected so that you couldn't access anything. And little by little, they've been opening it up in smart ways, to make sure that, one, you can't have a lot of crappy software on there that, can ruin the whole system. And, number 2, that it gives a reasonably good experience. And with WWDC this year, the stage manager, I think, is a really big change. I think that will definitely open up a whole new set of work, capabilities. And for LumaFusion, I think one of the biggest areas is the ability to use the second monitor as an actual workspace, and if you're using a trackpad, we can actually put UI on that extra workspace. And Terry and I have been already discussing a lot of different ways we could take advantage of that, to give our users better workflows using LumaFusion.
Terry?
One thing I wanted to follow up with on the display was that we have scopes coming in 3.1, which is just very close to being out, and that will be something that we can improve with the new display modes from Apple. So.
Yeah, it's really exciting. 3.1 is, our new release coming out very soon, and it's another free update. So as usual, we're and we decided not to charge for video scopes. It was going to be packaged in with another feature, but we decided to separate out the features so users can buy just what they want. And so that'll be a free new feature. And like Terry said, we're going to use some of the extra display bandwidth, the extra display space to even give more information in those video scopes.
Yeah.
I guess the other thing that they mentioned specifically is the round tripping that we have talked about here before, where you have the XML options to export out and then put into a desktop NLE if that's what you want. And that to me sort of answers the question of, again, a professional video editor on the iPad. I mean, we already have it. It's LumaFusion. You just need to go and get it, learn it. And then if you can accomplish what you need to do there, great. If you need to export it over into a desktop, that's fine too. So I feel like LumaFusion you're not getting as much credit as I think you should. And that's one reason I want to keep banging the drum and saying, hey, people, if you need this, it's here already.
Yeah, I mean, I think Apple's made it really clear with the latest WWDC that they are headed towards a more professional capabilities on the iPad, and that, they're going to support apps like LumaFusion to increase different features, improve different features. And we are keeping pace with that as they come out with new things. We're adding them into LumaFusion. I think that, I think the timing is perfect, to be honest. It's not like we're waiting around saying, oh, I wish Apple would do this thing, because we're busy all the time doing, keeping LumaFusion improving in different ways. But yeah, they seem to be right on the mark. Like, they are coming out with just the right stuff that allows us to make another step, like external drive support. When they came out with external monitors, at USB-C external drive, direct editing from that. So there's just been a lot of things that it's like if they could read our minds, what we were thinking of, they seem to just come out with it. So it's been really great.
This edition of MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Get important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for your Mac right inside Slack. Kolide sends employees important, timely, and relevant security recommendations for their Linux, Mac, and Windows devices right inside Slack. Some companies try to lock down their employee devices, which is great for security, but terrible for productivity and usability. Kolide has a better way. Kolide knows that end users are IT admins' most significant untapped resources and the key to solving the most challenging security issues, including instructing developers to set passphrases or unencrypted SSH keys, finding plain text two-factor backup codes and teaching end users how to store them securely, and convincing employees to uninstall evil browser extensions that may sell their browser history. Those are just some of the many use cases that are not solved by locking down devices. You can try Kolide with all its features on an unlimited number of devices for 14 days, free, no credit card required. Visit kolide.com/MacVoices to sign up today. That's Kolide, KOLIDE.com/MacVoices. Try all of Kolide's features on an unlimited number of devices for 14 days free, no credit card required. And be sure to enter your email when prompted to receive your free Kolide gift bundle after trial activation. That's kolide.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Kolide for supporting this week's MacVoices.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, Chuck, that, what we've created with LumaFusion is a way for most users can do everything they want right on the device. And now that we have, ProRes support, most people don't even need to go to the desktop. But we've made it so that people can fit LumaFusion into any workflow. If it's a professional workflow and you need something in, Final Cut or Premiere or Resolve, you have that ability to move across and use those tools if needed. So you can start in LumaFusion and have the wonderful user interface where you can edit anywhere and feel free to edit and the fun of editing again, and then still move to the desktop when you need specific tools and need to do certain things that you couldn't do currently in LumaFusion. Though I'll say we're continually working, as Terry said, to make sure you'll have all those things, in LumaFusion in the future. So that's our goal, but have them in a better and fun way. That's one of the big things we're working on.
I know that, and I think Terry said something interesting there. Is it's a step at a time, and too many of us are spoiled, or we want it all and we want it now, and that's just not it. iPadOS, along with iOS, is definitely evolving, and it may not be evolving fast enough for some people, but it is definitely evolving. If you look back, I don't know how else to measure it, but look back pre-pandemic. At the progress that was being made, and look what's happened since then. And, I would expect that we'll see something next year and the next year and the next year that make it an even more capable device. as people figure out, what changes, they like. I think it gets lost on folks that Apple does tend to try things, and if something doesn't work, it just sort of quietly either gets left in and not paid attention to, or just gets removed.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and then there's the fact that the operating system for iOS is gorgeous for developers like us. It's just a perfect platform, and AV Foundation and all the tools that come directly from Apple that we can just build upon are very, very good. So it does make a real big difference for our development.
Yeah, and I think Apple's pretty smart about choosing, and they don't always get it right, but often they do. And like you said, if they don't get it right, it'll, languish, but they'll keep moving in a new direction where they bring, they're with this WWDC, I think they brought a lot of unification in areas of the platform that make sense, but they're still keeping things separate where they don't. The desktop still feels like a desktop. The iPad still feels different with its touch interface, but where it makes sense, like with Stage Manager and things like that, those can feel the same on both platforms and provide as usual, provide a great Apple experience. If you're in the Apple ecosystem, everything feels just right. And that's a great feeling.
Well, yeah. And, I didn't mean, if I implied that Apple has missed the mark on some things, then, I please consider it misstated, because I think it's fascinating. I know people that love spaces. I know people that just have no use for spaces at all. So, and my God, just look at the utilities out there that are available on both platforms that might fit the way that I work, but they might not fit the way you work. So, in so many cases, there's not a right or wrong here. And I admit to getting a little perturbed at folks who seem to want to draw that black and white distinction of, no, this is bad and that's good. The touch bar on the MacBooks or MacBook Pros is a perfect example. Could Apple have done some things differently? Yeah, I think so. But, it was there. And for those of us that liked it, we liked it. We may not have been in love with it, but it was useful.
Right.
So I'm anxious to see what, you all bring to the next version of your product, and, what advantage you can take of what Apple has given you.
Yeah. So, I think, obviously the extended data range, the high definition graphics, I think will take us into a new set of workflows where people can really use it for professional HDR authoring. We will be adding features to provide content HDR data and the mastering HDR data, things that you need to really master, color spaces when you're editing. And down the road, we'll be adding, actually, let me talk about one more feature in 3.1 that's coming out with the video scopes, is we will now allow multiple LUTs to be applied to clips and multiple effects of the same type, for example, to chroma keys, for example. So that's going to open up a whole new world of color correction and color enhancement, in LumaFusion. And then down the road, we'll add more features for advanced color correction. I think really make it a powerful tool for grading, which is currently one of the areas where it's not used heavily. Basic grading you can do really well in LumaFusion, but for more advanced grading, it's not there yet. And that's one thing we'll keep working on to make it perfect for that.
When will we see our first feature film done completely on LumaFusion, or have we seen it already?
There's a lot of independent films that have been done, but we're still looking for a bigger film. We'd love to see, something that could be a real highlight of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that would be good.
Marvel Studios, please give them a call.
That's right.
Yeah, but I think for filmmakers and high budget things, LumaFusion becomes another of the tools that they used for a bigger workflow. It is like you can use a hammer to build a castle or a house, or you can use a hammer to put a picture on the wall, right? So I think LumaFusion is a tool that suits different people and different workflows for different things. But the key is that it has all the functionality you need to not limit yourself when you're in the field and you're editing and you're saying, oh, I just want to cut this. It's not going to limit you and say, oh, you have to cut it with the audio so long, or, you can't trim this, or you can't color correct it, or you can't do it's all there for you. So you can really choose where it fits in your workflow. For a lot of people, it's just the final step. You're doing your whole edit, color correcting titles, audio mixing, audio EQ, and sending it out to where it goes. But then there's other people, films, they use so many different experts that need the files to go to the color corrector, and the audio needs to be sweetened by a proper audio sweetener, an artist, So they are using LumaFusion in a different way that's making usable parts that can be sent out. And I think with LumaFusion, the timeline is just the most beautiful thing to me, because it not only has the efficiency of the magnetic timeline like in Final Cut, but it also has traditional track-based features like insert, overwrite, clip, track locking, track levels, clip levels, overall master levels. So there's all these things you can control in a really traditional way, which allows you to edit the way you want. And I think that's what makes it a really functional tool for a lot of different types of editors.
Terri, I would agree, and I know you and I've had a number of conversations here about just the experience of touch-based editing as opposed to using a mouse or a trackpad or even a pointing device of some kind. And so I think you're right. I think it's certainly something that can be taken into the field a lot easier than even a laptop and used.
Oh yeah, I mean, a laptop, you can take it into the field, but it doesn't hold power as long. The screen isn't as easy to see in sunlight. You're not going to carry it around, and it's not instant on. It takes a few seconds if you close the lid, it's going to take some time to boot up. The iPad is just so instant. You can get your media in there through a variety of ways. Now you could just plug in an external drive and into the USB-C port and see your media in LumaFusion and start dragging it to the timeline. So there's just a lot of things that have been added to the iPad that make it super functional for in the field. It's fun. You feel so connected to your media that it's a lot different than getting a laptop out and using the touch pad or a mouse to move things around is a bit fiddly. And with the iPad, you just reach in there, touch it, grab it, move it, trim it. It's so fun.
Yeah, and we do know of a number of teams that are using it for television and film production in daily edits is a really common area where LumaFusion is being used, and even more so now that we have ProRes support in there. So that's been a really nice addition. But it is that freedom that Terri's talking about, where you can just pop it open and say, "Hey, let's look at this edit really quick," and there's just nothing stopping you from from quickly seeing what you want to do. And I think that's really one of the powers of LumaFusion.
Terri and Chris are back in the next edition of MacVoices to talk more about some of the features that are coming to LumaFusion, running LumaFusion on a Mac, and also the training options that are out there to help you get the most out of LumaFusion. That's next time on MacVoices, and I hope you'll join us. Until then, and as always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.